we care deeply. We go out every day and we try to figure out how we can make it just a little bit safer for everybody else in the city of Aurora. But at a 20% increase in crime, violent crime, that's a lot. That's your car being driven into a building. That's your truck, okay, being stolen and carjacked somebody else, okay? So, while we could just keep on doing what we're doing, my Chief Oates, our interim chief of police right now, decided that we need to try to do something to combat violent crime. Okay? So he decided that we would bring back a program called DART, D-A-R-T, and it's the Direct Action Response Team. That team started in 1980 in the city of Aurora. Okay? How many people in the city lived in the city in 1980? Okay, does anybody else want a gun law? Any more gun laws? We've got to get rid of those two because I don't want to carry them. So, it was actually designed to, as a quasi-motorcycle team to go out and do some traffic enforcement. And they rode around on Kawasaki motorcycles. They did some traffic enforcement. They did some current crime stuff. They went up and down the alleys of North Aurora because that's really all we had back then. And they took care of some low-level crime then. Then in 1994, DART was reimagined into what it was in just after Chief Metz got here, and then he took it down to make another team. So we had it designed to where each of our three districts, District 1, District 2, District 3, had a 6-man DART team, a sergeant overseen by a sector commander. And that sector commander then reported to the district commander. So if there was an issue in your district, okay, I was the District 3 DART sergeant and DART lieutenant. I started that team up down there from scratch, and I reimagined it even different than what it was in the other two districts. But when my boss came to meet, we would meet every week for crime meetings, every Tuesday, 12:30, bring your lunch or not, and the district commander would look over his crime stats for his district. And he would look at me and go, Lieutenant or Sergeant, what are you doing about this statistical area right here, wherever that was in District 3? And if I didn't have an answer, okay, or if I didn't have a solution to that problem, I would be on the hot seat. Because my district commander reported to then the chief of police. Which was that back then. So our district DART teams got very good at knowing those in our district and in our community. And when we knew there was a problem in this geographical area, wherever it was, generally driven by statistics, okay, of our crime analysts that was part of the district, they would tell us every week, this is what's going on. It was our responsibility then to go out and deal with that problem, wherever that was in the city, okay? And each district was a little bit different. So, fast forward to when Chief Nick Metz came here, he once again reimagined what DART was and looked at how could we even do a little bit better. So he took all three DART teams, and at that time we only had a 6-man SWAT team, okay, to take care of that. He took all three DART teams, put them together, and he made a 24-man strategic response team, is what he called it, where they were going to be one group that they would go around in different parts of the city and try to address crime. Okay, it was his different way of once again looking at that. Well, the team became so good, they became a really kind of a SWAT team for this region over here, and they got really, really good at what they were doing, apprehending fugitives from our violent fugitive team, from Safe Streets, our robbery investigation unit that's done at the Fed level. They got really good at it. So then it became just a large team to go out, and they were just arresting a lot of bad guys. And gals. Just gals. So, when Chief Oates came back in, he decided that he would like to see the DART function come back, where we are going back after analytical crime, okay? I'm going to read you our DART mission, okay? So our mission is, the DART mission is to impact violent crime through investigative enforcement efforts targeting established pattern crime trends, sound familiar from what we did before in the districts, and known hotspots based on intelligence-driven analytical data. So we've got a lot of statisticians in the police department, a lot of crime analysts, that feed us information. And how they do that, I have no clue. Okay? They sit behind a computer all day long and they write formulas and stuff comes out, they give it to us, and that's how that happens. So through conventional and specialized law enforcement methods, DART members will engage in highly visible, proactive, investigative enforcement operations to combat rising violent crime and motor vehicle thefts in the city of Aurora. Yes, ma'am?
Well, it seems like one of the problems is that the police department is understaffed,
We'll get there.
and you can't get through to 911 or...
We'll get there. Yeah, I want to talk about that too. If I don't, raise your hand and throw your club back at me, okay? So, it sounds very similar to what we used to do with the centralized DART teams in the city, right? So in order to do that, okay, in order to make this team, we had to find 6 bodies in the city to make our new team. We have a team of now 24 DART officers, 2 sergeants, one of which is Sergeant Sandoval in the back, who was one of your park sergeants for many years. He was a DART sergeant, he was a fugitive sergeant, and he's got a lot of knowledge to go along with what this team is doing now. So, now we've got this new team, right? We've got 6 people that we pulled out of other places. And we've got 6 people that we removed from our SWAT team and moved them over to DART. So now we have an 18-man SWAT team and a 24-man DART team, or person DART team. Now their mission, okay, it's just not DART, okay? Our DART team falls under what we call the Special Operations Bureau of the Police Department, which I'm the division chief over, okay? So I've got our DART team, I've got our narcotics unit, I've got our gang unit, and our, what we call our GRIP unit, our gang robbery investigation team, detectives that go out for cases together. So under that umbrella, that is how we're trying to combat crime. So while our DART team is out there and it's a new team, they rely heavily on what the others feed them. The narcotics unit feeds them. The gang unit feeds them. And they go out and they work collaboratively as a team in certain sections of the city. Now, anybody can imagine our city, okay? Starts up at the DIA fence line for the employee parking lot, okay? It ends in Parker, well, actually down in parts of Castle Rock now, way down there, okay, Douglas County. And then it starts over here on Yosemite and goes out to Watkins, okay? So it's a big city, right? We're a big city now. And these 24 men and women that go out every day, along with our gang unit, along with our robbery unit, along with our SWAT team, as you can imagine, like the young lady said back here, there's just simply not enough to go out and cover the whole city. So that's why we go back to these analytical data, the statistics, okay, of where they should go, so we get the best bang for the buck. We're trying to really focus on analytical data, okay? So when you call and say they're speeding on my street every day, everybody in here is called to probably say that, right? I know every council member, the mayor, everybody gets those complaints daily. They're speeding on my street, they're speeding on my street. The first thing we do is I don't send an officer, of which also falls under me in the Special Operations Bureau, the traffic unit. I don't send an officer out there on a motorcycle to go look at it anymore. We don't have enough of them. So what we do is I send my traffic sergeant out there with the speed sign, and we throw a speed sign up, and we collect anecdotal data to show us when they're speeding, if they're speeding, what the tolerances are, what the mean is, what gives us all kinds of stuff. And once we look at that data, then we can decide where we're going to send our people, whether it's traffic, whether it's dark. Yes, ma'am?
On the street where I live, there's only one sign. It's past Lansing, and it's facing away from Lansing, so it's like slow down for the kids. But there is no, on Kenton Street, our house is right behind Lansing. There is no,
Sign going the other way?
yeah, and
Yeah.
there's no slow down. I mean, honestly,
Right.
that street is like a speed street.
Yeah, we've got 7,400 of those streets in our city. Because everybody says the same thing. They always
Yeah,
call.
we just, on our street where we live on Kenton, 2 months ago, that, Concord,
Mhm.
school there,
Uh-huh.
I mean, I could be down in my basement, and I could hear them doing floor wheelies and all
Yeah.
that, and our street, and I know that there's thousands of them out there, I know that, but we have a school that is right on the other side, and.
Right.
So I'm wondering if we can do this, I'm wondering if we can go through, let's hit on the DART program.
Okay.
And I'll come back to you, okay? I'll give
And
you.
then at the end, we'll have a time slot for traffic, and the city council has just approved some major program, I think that will help in that regard, but please proceed.
So my point is we look off that analytical data, okay, to try to see where we can put people. Those speed signs are about $5,000 to $8,000 each, depending on whether or not they're solar powered or if they're just hung for a 2-week period. They're very expensive. So now I've got my teams, and I don't want to just say DART because it's everybody, and I send those teams out there. The sergeants look over that data. Daily, we have bulletins coming out from within of what's going on in the city, who was recently victimized, where our robberies have happened, what the cars we're looking for, okay? And through their wonderful minds, because I don't have that mind anymore, they read these bolos, and they pick these cars up in the middle of the night, either parked somewhere, parked in a parking lot, driving down the road, and it's amazing, the work they're doing. So, last month alone, okay, my DART team, my gang unit, my narcotics unit, okay, last month alone, they made 50 felony arrests, 42 misdemeanor arrests. They recovered 14 occupied stolen vehicles, 6 unoccupied stolen vehicles. They charged 7 of those stolen vehicles into our municipal court, and they recovered, who wants to guess how many guns they recovered in 1 month?
1,000.
Not quite that many. Anyone want to guess?
Car stolen?
What?
One for each car stolen?
Not quite that many.
50.
Not quite that many.
Not that many. Wow. Figured it'd be more.
They recovered 20 guns, which is actually a great number to catch. Okay.
What did they do with those? Did they destroy them?
Some of them are evidence.
After evidence?
Some of them are destroyed. Some of them are returned to the proper owner because they might have been stolen. Okay. Those that are used in the commission of a crime, okay, if they're not returned to the proper owner, we destroy all weapons in the city of Aurora.
Couldn't those weapons be used? I mean, why would you just destroy it? I mean, that doesn't make much sense to me.
That is a policy decision we've made, and we destroy them. There's no reason to keep them. Could you imagine that we sell a gun back to a vendor, a gun store that was used, that we recovered off the street, and that gun is used to kill somebody in a homicide later? It's a policy decision that we don't want our guns out on the street. So we might take a couple parts on them to keep some of our guns going at times, but we destroy them. Okay, there's no reason for them. So now our team is out there, okay, and thanks to the city council and the mayor, they gave us some funds to buy some cars like you and I drive every day, not a police car. Okay, and we hear it all the time. I never see a police officer in my neighborhood. We've got a huge fleet of unmarked cars that you would never know that the police are in the city of Aurora. A huge fleet. Okay? that they are able to go out and sneak and creep and watch and learn and listen, to see what's going on, to watch traffic, watch intersections, that people run red lights, to determine if that person over there, whatever they're doing, is suspicious, and they can get close enough with binoculars to watch them. Because we all know, when we park that pretty police car on the corner of whatever and whatever, everybody sees it right there, right? So if the cop car's parked right here, nobody's gonna do anything on this block, right? So while we try to do that at times to have an overt, okay, display of police, sometimes we try to do covert also. Well, our teams in my bureau are all covert. They wear a uniform, just like that. They go out every day, just like that. Okay, so if they get out of a covert car, you can easily identify them as police officers. And they're doing a bang-up job. Okay.
Several years ago, well, I don't know, time is important. There was a lot of people that were imitating, you know, they put the little blue lights and then they stop women. So that's how you can tell that it's not somebody, you know, with their blue lights on.
So our police cars, okay, I make sure we light them up like Christmas trees. Okay, so if you get pulled over, you wouldn't know if it's a marked car or an unmarked car. That's how bright. There's lights in the grills, there's lights in the bars, there's lights on the side, there's the headlights go like this, they light up. Okay? So if they were behind you, you wouldn't know, unless maybe it's daytime and you would say, well, that's a truck behind me. Why are they pulling me over? Okay? They've done this for a long time. If you want to go to a well-lit area and pull over at night, they know. They'll follow you to a well-lit area. All right? We understand that part of it. If you want to call 911 and say, somebody's trying to pull me over right now, and this is where I'm at, wherever this is, they'll tell you, yes, that's a police officer, and you can pull over.
Okay.
Okay? So we put a lot of those cars out there, okay, to do that. And they're doing a bang-up job. And they've been doing this job for 2 months now? About 2 months now, right? So they've been out for about 2 months. So, over the last 30 days, is crime up or crime down in Aurora?
Down.
What? Raise your hand for up. Raise your hand for down. Crime is down over the last 30 days in every category in the city of Aurora. All right, I gotta take one thing back. Okay. Crime is not down in burglaries. That's the only thing we're not down in. Okay.
What?
Burglary. We're still up 5.8% in burglaries.
Does car theft fall under that?
No, car theft is a different category. We're down in car theft 30%. Okay. We're down in general larcenies 25%. We're down in violent crime 15%. We're down in robberies 20%. We're down in aggravated assaults 12%. And we're down in sex assaults 23%.
Are you sharing this with insurance companies?
Insurance companies, they can go to our website. All of our statistics are on our website. Okay? Anybody can pull it up. No, we don't share it with insurance. There's not enough bandwidth to go to every insurance company and get it out there to the Insurance Institute. Now, I will tell you that through CAPPAW, who is a big deal in auto theft, it's the Colorado Auto Theft Prevention Task Force. If you didn't know, $1 or $2 out of every registration goes to CAPPAW to fund auto theft in the city. And we have a task force that works on that. CAPPAW, okay, the money that they get in can go out and they can buy clubs and stuff like that, all right? We actually have somebody from the Insurance Institute on our auto theft task force for the state. So they get those numbers too, okay? And how they share that within the insurance industry, I don't know.
It's just you go to shop insurance as soon as you give your zip code.
Yeah. But I'm telling you, it's no different in Aurora than it is in Arapahoe County, than it is in Denver than it is in Lakewood, than it is in Commerce City. Okay? Auto theft is up everywhere. Now, we're seeing it a little bit more because we're a bigger city. Like I said, the IA fence line, Douglas County, Yosemite, way out east. So, while we are doing better, that's a snapshot of 30 days. Just a snapshot. It could be an anomaly. It could be an anomaly. It could be that, you know, maybe our kids just went back to school, the weather got a little cooler, you know, we don't know, right? So what we're hoping is that we're on the right, maybe the right trend, hopefully. Yes, ma'am?
How does this relate to that 17th Judicial District DA thing that was in the news? I think it was reported in the Senate. Do you guys interact with them?
Well, I'm not sure which article you're talking about, okay? But I'm telling you, our team, all of our teams that I listed off, our narcotics unit, our gang unit, our DART team, our robbery unit, they're all in the pockets of each district attorney's office. The district attorney in Arapahoe County, okay, they just sent me an email here a couple weeks ago that every single person in the city got, that they had to hire 2 additional prosecutors because the work that these teams are bringing in for prosecution.
Yeah.
So we're trying. Yes, sir.
What are those prosecutors' records?
I can't tell you that. That's a policy decision at the DA's level. That has nothing to do with city government.
Where can we get that information?
You'd have to go to either the
Because-
17th or 18th.
As you know, across this country, the liberal prosecutors are catch and release, catch and release. And you can do all the work you want, you can arrest as many people as you want. But if our prosecutors and our judges and our judicial system is not holding them accountable and there are consequences, you guys can put in all the overtime you want and it's just a revolving door.
Can you talk about
So
that?
what's being done about that?
Yeah, so, part of that is state law, and the fact is that since probably 2014, there's been a lessening of penalties, by the state legislature, and, I think that we're suffering the consequences of that, but, we did just pass a, mandatory minimum sentences, for, motor vehicle theft, using our municipal code, to prosecute those. And so it's 60 days first offense, for vehicle catalytic converter, for a repeat offense, it's 120 days, in jail. So, but also, I wonder if you could talk about, just during the pandemic, that there was a change in policy, I'll just note that. There's a change in policy in incarceration where, jails, the county sheriffs across Colorado were given, guidance by public health officials about, social distancing requirements in jail populations and a requirement to lessen those populations. And so we have motor vehicle theft, which is considered a property crime. Unfortunately, it obviously is, I think it's stated it's much more than that, those folks were not kept. They were basically given a summons to say, here's your court date, and let out the door to steal another vehicle. And so we're going back at least to the situation before, pre-pandemic now, where they're able to hold more people. And so I think with we can only hold people for 3 days in our facility because it's a detention facility, not a jail. But so we're hoping that the county jail will help us out in terms of following this new law in the mandatory minimum sentences.
Well, you as mayor of this city, how are you holding our district attorneys accountable for their conviction rates?
Well, I think it's more about judges than it is about district attorneys knowing the process. But I have as much authority as you do because as a vote, because they don't work for the city. They're a separate. District attorneys are separate governance, and so they're not part of the city government.
What can we do about viewing the records? I mean, you read the blue books and it doesn't tell you what their records are. There's no information to their job performance. So you guys can do all the work, and I gotta
Sure, no, I tell you,
they're outstanding.
No, there's a broader problem with the criminal justice system, but we're doing the best we can with the tools that we have, and so that's the establishment of the DART team, which I think is brand new, and I think is an incredible asset so that if I'm gonna simplify it, I would say that prior to dark, which the city used to have and was dismantled, when Chief Oates interim Chief Oates came on board, I asked him, well, what are you gonna do about the rising crime rate? And he said, first thing I'm gonna do is that the crime fighting infrastructure of this department has been dismantled, and I'm gonna reassemble it. And so that is, and I think a big part of that is the DART program. And that is that, if you think about it, right now, we have a patrol at all times we have patrols going down the city. But those patrols are primarily to answer calls coming in from dispatch. Now, when they don't have calls coming in from dispatch, they can certainly, if there's any crimes occurring, you know, they can, and they see those, you know, they can go ahead and address them. However, to have another unit to go out, commensurate with that, in addition to that is solely focused on picking up bad guys out of the street, who are the habitual car thieves, who are the violent offenders. So they're not answering dispatch calls. They have these names and they're looking for those names. I think as stated, that makes a tremendous difference. That is making a tremendous difference. I think it will make a tremendous difference. I also think that having mandatory, that this city has stepped in the absence of the state, in an unprecedented way, and done mandatory minimum sentence to prosecute people through our municipal court, is new. I think it's innovative. I think that's going to make a difference as well.
And sir, I'll tell you, there's nothing more frustrating at our level when we go out and we arrest somebody, and they're out before my team gets their paperwork done. And that happens, okay, but that's, our job is to go out, get them, put them in jail, and if they get out, they get out. And if we have to get them again for something, we will get them again. That's just a whole separate side of law enforcement. Our teams go out there, if there's a law on the book, whatever the law is, you can read CRS and it's 74,000 pages long, I think, it's huge, okay? And in that book, if there's a law in there, we enforce it. That's what we're there for. And whatever the sentence is, whatever the jails do it, it's above us. So we don't look at that, and like Mayor Coffman said, it's a whole different side of the judicial system or the judicial system that's going on.
I understand that, Chief, but you still, and the mayor still failed to answer this. What can we do as citizens of this community to help you all fix this problem? Who do we have to go talk to? Who do we have to hold accountable? Where we can get the prosecuting attorneys and the judges that are going to hold the criminals accountable.
State legislators. I mean, certainly we have a role in that, mayor, council, but most of the laws that we have in the books are and the penalties associated with those laws, as well as judicial procedure, is in state law. And so that I just really encourage you to reach out to your state legislators, become familiar with them, and ask them where they are on these issues.
You, sir?
Yes, sir. My son was an Aurora police officer for a couple of years, about 10 years ago.
Who was he?
Steve Brelsford.
I didn't know him. You guys can check Steve Brelsford.
And he quit the Aurora Police Department just for what you're talking about. He'd go out and catch some bad guys, and the next week he's catching the same guys again.
Yep.
And he just couldn't put up with this day after day. And he ended up quitting the police department because the judicial people wouldn't keep him in jail and do something about it.
And it's frustrating. I
Yes, it is.
don't disagree with you, but again, our job, it's above that. We go out there because we have a passion. Like I said earlier, I've been here this will be my 27th year. I love this job. I love this city. I love the men and women that I work with, and I love our community, okay? Like I said, there's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears put on the street by not only me, but every police officer out here. So if they get out, okay. We at our level have to be okay with that. And we go out every day to do a job. And that job comes down from myself, from Chief Oates, from our elected officials to go out and do the job. And we go out there and we do the job, and we can't worry about the 50,000-foot level. We gotta worry about what's going on with us and to make sure we're doing everything we can. Yes, sir. And I'll get you.
Yeah, so this question is for Councilmember Marcano, Mayor Coffman, and you. How much has spending on law enforcement gone up in the past year in Aurora?
How much is spending on law enforcement gone up?
Roughly, approximately.
I couldn't answer that with a dollar. What I can tell you is our budget hasn't went down. Our budget hasn't went down. We haven't been reduced. I can tell you that as Chief Oates has gone to his boss, Deputy City Manager Batchelor or City Manager Twomley, and if there's been I always call it a widget, if there's a widget that we need, we've got it, okay? When I told them that I needed 4 new cars for our team to go out and do this job undercover, we got it. I don't know how much it's went up. That's a hard question to say because the government or the budget process kind of ebbs and flows throughout the year. But I can tell you, it has not went down. Okay.
I can't tell you how much it's gone up, but I think the fact is that we have a shortage of officers right now. And so we've just significantly increased the pay to where now we're top in the state in terms of pay. So we hope to make up the difference in the shortfall of officers that we've had. And I also think we've done some incredibly innovative things in terms of for calls that are really mental health calls that don't necessarily require a pure law enforcement response. And to give you an example of that, I go out I rotate districts once a month that I go out for anywhere from 6 hours to 10 hours riding on patrol just to really assess what is going on. And so I think the last time I was in District 2 and we received a call from one of the motels, I think it was the Wolf's Motel up on Colfax. And there was an individual that was clearly having a mental health crisis, but he also had a knife. And he was threatening the other residents in the motel and literally punching holes into the walls, adjacent walls, into the next room. And so the initial response was, you got to drop the knife and come out of your room. And so what was extraordinary to that was that we had somebody with, that was part of our CRT crisis response team come out, along with the officer that I was with that had crisis intervention training. And it was incredible. And here you had this hallway with all the armed officers ready to go into the room, but with these 2 people talking him down. And so it was amazing how they were able to connect with this individual and say, so tell us, how did we got to this point? But they were able to connect with him in such a way that he began talking about the challenges that he had. And then he did drop the knife, he opened the door, and he was arrested without the incident. Before CRT, before that type of non-law enforcement response that allowed for therapists to come in and people with training in mental health, whereas that probably would have ended really badly. We probably a forced entry and probably the individual would have been killed and possibly a police officer would have been injured in that. And so I think look, public safety is the most important thing that this city can do. And so that's got to be the priority of the budget. There's no bones about it, and we are doing that in this budget. Councilmember McConnell, and then we can open up to questions.
So I don't have a dollar figure for you, but the police department here has never been defunded, and there were some claims to that effect a couple of years ago. That's never happened. And I also want to add that the Aurora Mobile Response Team, which is a non-law enforcement response, that does operate in this area, has also been wildly successful. They've been on a pilot status that we approved a couple of years back. Now this is their first full year of service, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to make them a permanent fixture in the city as well, because I think that they do a great job of taking a lot of calls off of law enforcement's hands that don't require that expertise.
Okay, go ahead, we'll open up the question.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, with all this incidents going on, victim, you know, road rage and that type of thing, is it possible for us, especially with cameras and stuff, for us, and I don't know if you look at this or not, it's somehow be an incentive that we carry cameras on the car for any of that. I cannot tell you how every day I see road rage, somewhere, shape, or form, and I actually have been a victim of road rage. Fortunately, nothing happened from that perspective, but things can turn really ugly, you see that all the time.
So, yes, so the cameras are our best asset, let's face it.
Can you look at that, can you turn those in, can you look at that?
We can't, no, yes and no, okay? We can't, as you know, we can't be everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
The year before last, I want to say, maybe it was 2 years ago, we wrote 30-some-odd thousand traffic tickets in the city of Aurora. Hey, that was just a hand in the bucket, okay? We could probably double or triple that. We're not going to write our way out of road rage and traffic incidents. But what I can tell you is part of our problem is the process to prosecute something like that. So while you see this road rage incident between this person and this person, and you film that, and you get their license plate numbers, okay? While it looks aggressive to you, you have to go to court. You have to go to court. If you're gonna bring that complaint forward, you have to go to court and say, this happened, and you have to be somewhat of a victim to that, all right? And that's where we run into some of the problems. That's where we run into some of our problems with auto theft as well, is people don't show up to court. They get their car back, okay, I got my car back, got it fixed, I'm busy, we all have lives, right? And it's a drain, but that's our judicial system. So if you're involved with road rage, yes, okay, yes, we would like the video. But on top of that, we are not the victim. We can only write a ticket off what you show us, okay? But you have to go to court. We're gonna get up and simply say, Your Honor, I swear that this location was in the city of Aurora, county of, you name it, state of Colorado, and there's no other question. Or the defense attorney might ask, did you see this violation? I didn't see it, I just saw it on video. You have to show to court of what happened. That's the process. Everybody has a right to face their accuser. And that's many of the problems we have. Yes, ma'am?
I want to touch on two things. One, when you spoke about the officers that come out, the one that disengaged the guy.
Crisis response team?
Yeah, crisis response team. I personally live in a building where they have people that have a lot of mental illness, and there's a person that every Thursday or Friday, she goes completely off. I've had your officers come out to try to resolve it peacefully, but she's somebody that definitely needs to be, I'm not gonna say put her in asylum because I understand. However, she's menacing enough that one time you don't take her, she may actually pull a blade on someone. And I live across from her.
So what I would say to that, okay, is when you notice somebody in your community that's suffering from an incident, okay, to give us a call. We'll either send our AMAR team out there or our crisis response team out there. Your rights are huge in America, okay? They're huge. And it takes a lot for us to deprive you of any rights. It takes a lot, and we have to go through a threshold. And if we don't go down that threshold, now while you might think that no, you need to take this person in, we have to look at it at several different levels.
So my concern is that it's a continual problem, it's habitual. It's a point of once or twice a week. When she stands out there, I'll kill you all. I've gotten to know her when she's not intoxicated, and so her name is Nina, and she'll speak to me, and when she goes there, I said, well, Jersey, you don't want this, I'm a New Yorker, we're not gonna have it. And, you know, she did it in front of a cop. She said, I'm gonna do this. I said, Mommy, you don't want this. Because right now you're threatening me in front of a cop. And what I can tell them is I feel uncomfortable and you're going to jail. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go inside of my house, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna go inside of your apartment or whatever. So at that, the cop and tells her, you know, he stands out there with her for a few 30 minutes or whatever, while she's still doing the same thing until she goes in. Well, I get it that she has rights, and I get it's not a crime to be insane. But when she continues to do the same thing over and over, and when she pulls a blade, What am I to do as a person? 'Cause
So
If she pulls a blade on you, I want you to call us.
Yeah.
I'm
But, I think you, yeah, no, it's a difficult situation, and I think, as part of it, I don't know if you had, talked to your landlord in terms of their ability
We've
to.
done all of it.
Okay,
done
well,
all
I
of
think,
it.
I'm happy to talk to you about it offline, I don't know if we're gonna resolve it here. But, there is a high bar, to put somebody on a 72-hour mental health hold.
Okay,
They have to be a threat to themselves, they have to be a threat to somebody else. I
They
think
did that
you're saying.
twice.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch of different levels in
it's
it.
a whole bunch you go into. and it's just-
Afterwards, any one
Okay.
of my team, they'd be happy to talk to you about that.
I think that there was a question, let me go, there was a question about traffic, safety, that came up earlier. So let me tell you, there are, a couple things, going on. One is I would encourage, if you go to aurora.gov, you can navigate that website, and be able to request, and it's a very simple process to make the request, for a traffic study, of your area. If there's a stretch of road that's problematic, you can do that. And then we'll look at things, traffic calming, measures that could be deployed. We are also, and I know this is controversial among some libertarians, I get that. The city used to have a, what was it called, red light, program. That's been stopped, it's stopped by the voters. We are doing a different program that is not related to that, some people think that it is. A pilot program that will be going forward that will replicate what is done in Denver, in terms of having, these photo radar vans that can be moved anywhere in the city along difficult areas where there's a lot of speeding. We are going to, I think, do, is it 1 month or 2 month, where there's no tickets, given just warnings?
30 days.
30 days, and then I think 3 months was considered, but then it went down to 30 days. And so that will, so we'll give people warnings for the first 30 days, and after that, they'll be given tickets. There won't be points against their license, but there'll be fines imposed on them for speeding. Look, given the number of officers that we have that we're able to deploy on in terms of, in the traffic division, we really need assets like this as a force multiplier to deal with the speeding issue. Other questions?
I had this gentleman over here, I've been ignoring you, I'm sorry.
Some years ago, a vote was made by citizens of Aurora to raise the property taxes, and for that, there was a trade-off implied that there would be an effort to have two officers per 1,000 population of Aurora. Where are we with that?
Well, that's a convoluted one. While it's still on the books, we are working tirelessly to get there. We are down about, what we think right now is about 50 people in the agency. It ebbs and flows a little bit depending on bringing a class in and retirees. So that's always kind of ebbing and flowing. That is again, that's something that I think the city's always looking, if we can hire enough, we will. If we could get a class of 100 tomorrow, we would put 100 men and women through the academy, and if we had to go over a certain amount, we'll go, I don't want to speak for the policymakers, but I would assume we would go over however many we need to ensure that we are looking for future advancement in the city.
I think talking with the chief, I think he's doing everything he can in terms of recruitment. I mean, again, the extraordinary pay that we give, pay and benefits that we give officers, that's more than competitive with any other agency in the state. I think what our department is doing well right now in terms of recruitment is to go into other cities to get experienced officers that we can see that are paid less than our wage scale and bringing them over as laterals. And so I think to be able to do that is a very positive thing. I also think that we need to have some requirement. I think that when somebody goes through our academy, that they stay in our department for a while and part of those costs back. We've had people in police and fire graduate from academies, and then, you know, it's just offensive to me. I was with Aurora Fire Department. I did a 24-hour shift with them. I think it was last weekend. And one of the fires was telling me about an individual that the day he graduated, left the Aurora AFR for another city, which means that he was negotiating, leaving, while he was at our academy at our taxpayers' expense. That's incredible. Another thing, though, is that we have to look at, there was a 2017 study that said, do we really need all of these positions in uniform? Or can someone be done by civilians? Well, we can get those highly trained, what we call post-certified officers on the street and get them out behind desks. And so I think that's something we're gonna have to get aggressive in terms of looking at.
And we really are. We are getting there. As we've said, we've got, hey, listen, hold on here, just a minute. So, the Aurora Police Department is hiring. We're hiring. So if you know anybody that needs anything from a police department job to a clerical job, to a records job, to a dispatcher's job, we are hiring, okay? And I think the pay is fairly decent. I don't know. But every Monday, as part of the executive team, we look at all of the vacancies in the city to include police officers and civilian. The chief is honest about that. What are we doing about this on a daily basis? How are we recruiting, okay? It's a bigger problem, okay? Because people, we just can't fill the positions. It's not like that, okay? So it's a bigger problem. We put it out there. We put it out there, we put it out there, put it out there, put it out there. People get halfway through the background investigation and they go somewhere else. Mr. Marcano?
Is the civilian traffic unit on there?
Yeah, it's on the city's webpage. So our civilian traffic unit, okay? I'll hire, I think I could hire probably as many of them as I want if I went forward, okay? Because we're gonna start for them to go out and maybe do cold burglaries eventually, and maybe go out and get property, or maybe go out and direct traffic, or we're gonna find different ways to try to be solution makers in this, and our civilian side of it is, we're a big city. We can't do it all alone at the police department side with a gun and a badge. We need others to come out and help us. And Reed Haddock he's one of our biggest supporters of trying to help recruit people. We want to recruit people. So if you know anybody in your clergy, anybody, next door neighbors are looking for a job, we're always hiring. Man, you've been up there bouncing for a while. I saw you.
My brother is special needs, so the thing I had asked at the Ward 3 meeting the other day, I said he had an issue, for example, between Best Buy and Starbucks. And he got a little hyper, saying words and this and that, and he was going to try to get out of the car. And my concern is, I'm really scared that if he gets out of the car, something might, and I'm not saying police will do this, but something might happen. What the cop said is to put your hand up like this and saying hold on a second, he's special needs, and just to let him vet and so forth. I'm just wondering, when you guys do the training, the CRT training or the police training, I know that if you hear words and you see the training on slides and so forth, but to actually have an actual person or something, or maybe a video of that person freaking out or just getting upset.
Yeah.
If that's used, because I love my brother, but
So trust
I
me.
get scared in the public area.
Trust me, when we go through training, okay, it's not just a slideshow we go through for our CRT class, our CIT class. It's I think a 2-week-long class. And they bring in role players, they bring in people from the community. The biggest thing is yes, we're showing up. We don't know anything. We're just human. We're not we're not super beings. Okay, this doesn't work any different than yours. So we show up and we have to try to analyze everything, and we're getting, most of the time, we're getting 2 or 3 different people saying 2 or 3 different things. So when we show up, we've got to try to put it all together quickly. Okay? And yes, if your little brother has special needs, okay, and we show up, somebody needs to say, this young man has special needs. Okay? And then maybe we can try to turn off this hat, put on this hat, and change, this uniform, and this. There's just a lot going on. But trust me, we do a lot of that.
38 now.
Yeah.
But I just was thinking that we're in Best Buy parking lot, there's so much to say.
Somebody just needs to say it. I agree. Yes, sir?
Do you feel that you have lost a lot of policemen due to the protesters or quote troublemakers have taken a lot of the power away from the policemen and they're not allowed to do their job anymore?
I can't tell you how many we lost because of the protests and because of the change in policing. That was mine. I can't tell you the exact number. Yes, and that's historically across the country we've lost people, not just Aurora, but Denver. Denver's in a staffing crisis. I know, I've got friends in every agency in the metro area. They're all looking for, like the mayor said, our laterals. Okay, so while we're trying to go out of state to steal because we want to keep relationships good in the state. But yes, that is some of it. But that is
Judicial people have gone after some of the policemen when they're trying to do their job because some Joe Blow is causing trouble and he goes to his lawyer and writes about it.
That is our judicial system, and we all, every day we come to work, when we swore to take an oath, we know that can happen. And I know that every day, and they know every day they go out there, that could happen to any one of us. Okay, we know that. Whether people left for that, specifically for other things, I couldn't tell you that. I know some people that did leave because of it, because, listen, we're just beings, okay?
Sure.
We're not that super being, and if you can only take so much before your spouse says, I'm done worrying about you every night. I love you too much.
And I think that there's trouble recruiting police officers
Across the country, really,
and
across the
I think
world.
2020 was, after the George Floyd incident, and we had the Elijah McClain incident prior to that, in Aurora, terrible mistakes. And so obviously you have a reaction from the respective communities, you have a reaction legislatively. I think it went too far legislatively. I think we need to strike a better balance in the system. But I gotta tell you, I spent a lot of time with the police department. And I'm so impressed with the quality of the people that we have and the training that they have and how you have to make decisions in a split second. And then you're held accountable for those decisions as if you had all the information and to make, a judgment without having to immediately respond. It's just unbelievable. And I'll tell you what, it's not easy. The training is we have an attrition rate at the academy, and post-academy we have the FDO program. It's like a sort of an apprenticeship program, well, not an apprenticeship, but where they go out with a more seasoned officer for a while, and then they're certified. There's actually an attrition rate at both levels of training. And then I think we had a little over 10 officers graduate in the last class, and we had about 460 applicants for that class to tell you how selective this department is.
All right, a couple more questions because the Iowa Hawkeyes are playing right now. Where, my baby girl is going to school, so I gotta go get my yellow one.
You just need to know your money's getting spent well. So first I want to praise the Aurora Police Department.
Thank you.
When my car was stolen,
Actually, look at them.
7 o'clock in the morning.
They're the
you guys
team that
knocked
goes
on
out.
my door, asked me if I knew where my car was. My answer was apparently not where I left it. Yes. But they stayed there. They allowed me to go get it. Saved me some financial, situation. The other night, I ran into a couple of gang unit members, outstanding gentlemen, gave me a lot of great information on how we can help the community. But with that being said, you have touted this new youth violence prevention program. I tried for months to get a hold of Christina, emails, phone number. She's no longer with you.
Right.
I've been trying for over a week to get a hold of Scott Campbell. They're to direct us. So my question, and then I want to ask, the fugitive recovery team that you spoke of,
Yes, sir.
is no longer there, now it's the DART.
No, it's there.
It's there?
I
So
still
we
have-
still have both?
I still have a fugitive team, it's very
It-
vibrant.
It seems like both of those programs, you're pulling the weeds, you're not preventing the weeds. What are we doing as a community to prevent these things from happening, so that you're just not out there pulling? And you've got plenty of citizens that are willing to step up and help. But you got no responsible people on your staff there reaching out to us and coming back.
So I'm certainly, I'll leave you my card and my email address, and feel free to get a hold of me anytime. Let me tell you what that does prevent. The DART program, where it does prevent additional crime. A lot of the people that commit these crimes are habitual criminals. And taking them off off the street makes a big difference. And they prioritize it to the worst, getting the worst off the street. But I think also when you talk about the youth side, I think that's important. So we did appropriate money for youth violence prevention, youth violence intervention. I just, in fact, met yesterday with the vice principal of Hinkley High School to talk about the challenges at Hinkley High School and what we can do to get on top of the violence there. And so I think that there are some strategies that we could do in changing the way the Safe to Tell program works and doing some other things. And so we're going to meet again, APD, myself, and State Senator Rhonda Fields, and the Vice Principal for Hinkley High School, to talk about, because some of these things, to bring things down, are going to require change at the state level. So it's going to have to enlist her support. And if anybody knows about what it's like to lose a child due to gun violence, it's her.
Mayor, we're addressing holding wounds again. What are we doing to help these children not to do those, to give them options, to give them hope?
That's that program. So the program looks at at-risk youth and trying to do intervention at a young age. Let me tell you what, I love the Mayor Pro Tem a lot, and I think she's an extraordinary legislator, and she worked very hard for an enormous recreation center in the wealthiest part of town in a reward. She worked very hard for that, and let me tell you, if I were the mayor at the time of that community board council, it would not happen. Because I think we need those resources where they matter most for at-risk kids. And you know, there would be lots of private choices in that part of town and in most of this town. But let's focus our resources where they can make the greatest difference. And I think that is in our youth and keeping them from going down the wrong path.
So when we reach out to people, why are we getting responses back?
Well, I don't know, you can certainly reach out to me.
All right.
So, Mayor, this young man back here, has been doing the hop.
Get off the subject a little bit, but this is the main reason I came to this meeting. We have thousands of people driving their cars around with out-of-date license plates, or no license plates, or paper plates that have been 2 years old. What is the city doing about that?
I'll address that.
Colorado is losing thousands of dollars for people not registering
Some
their
of those paper
cars.
plates are fraudulent too.
I'll address that. During the pandemic, we laid off of that. Everybody in the metro area laid off of it, and it flowed down here, okay? Now we're getting back up there, okay? It's probably the third complaint that goes into my traffic bureau the most. What are we doing about that? And our officers are out there writing those tickets, okay? They're writing those tickets. Really what needs to do on the state level, there needs to be a state level campaign saying, we'll give you an amnesty program, by this date, they all have to be done, otherwise we're gonna really start going after it. But we are writing those tickets. Now, again, my traffic bureau is this big, okay? I don't want them out there writing those tickets. That's not their job, okay? My patrol officers that are out there every day, they can do a couple of those here and there, okay? It's a bigger issue. We all have to be better citizens, okay? But,
They probably got more important stuff to do.
our guys do, right. But our traffic officers, they're out there writing those tickets.
And I've been out on patrol where they pulled those vehicles over. And also to where they've gone through parking lots when they're not answering a call, looking for vehicles without plates, looking for vehicles with, they're checking them as they're going through and finding fraudulent plates. Unfortunately, sometimes when people steal these vehicles, they also steal plates off other vehicles and put them on there.
So we're doing something about it. Young man there in the back. What's your question, sir?
Sorry, I was late. I'm sure you went over it at the beginning of the meeting, but you mentioned a new program with DART. How many weeks ago? Can you just briefly summarize that again?
It's the Direct Action Response Team. And they're a team that goes out there and does proactive patrol based on analytical data provided by our crime analysts.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? And if you have any more questions about it, either one of these gentlemen can answer questions about what they do every day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, they're three of my guard people right here. So with that, I know the mayor had other things to talk about, and I'll stand up here and I'll talk all day long because that's kind of
You want to go to the game?
But there is a Iowa Hawkeye game going on right now. But anyway, we are here for you. I'm telling you, I know these gentlemen here, me, my team, we love this city. Yes, ma'am?
I was wondering how much of the increased crime that we have are done by the homeless?
Oh boy, that's a hard one to say. I don't know that we have that analytical. I don't know that we control that analytical data. I'm sure we can all agree it's a percentage. I don't know.
Yeah.
We are. That's a their.
Well, let me just say, talking to business owners and talking, and they call me up and I come over and, so two things, property crime, stealing stuff, I think in stores as well. Vandalism, although I don't know if it's intentional or not, but I'll give you an example. Right across the street from the city building is a shopping center. And so there are like 10 spaces in a row, commercial spaces in a row, retail. But then behind them is all the electrical stuff, and there was like a wall behind the electrical stuff, and then the kind of a cement patio. And so they were in the cement patio, they started a fire, and somehow that fire caught on to the electrical and just totally, and basically shut down those 10 businesses for a while. So fires have seemed to have been a problem, particularly as it gets colder now. And also breaking in places just to get out of the elements is an issue right now. So in fact, let me then go into the issue of homelessness. And so first of all, I want to tell you what we're doing, and then I'm going to talk to you about two trips that Councilmember Marcano and I are going to go on with some other council members and staff to look at what some other cities are doing on their homeless program. So first of all, we are going to be working with the state of Colorado on a program that will take the former Ridgeview Academy, which is just a little east of Quincy, outside of Aurora.
470.
And it is was a facility run by or operated or owned by the Division of Youth Services, operated under a contract for them, had a charter school, and it was for adolescent males who had some altercation with the criminal justice system, and that were placed in this institutional setting. Food service facility, classrooms, 500 beds facility, and so the Division of Youth Services changed its doctrine away from institutionalization and wanted to try to do everything possible to get these young men to stay with their families, if not that, in foster care, as opposed to institutionalizing them. And so that facility is in great shape and it's available. So the proposal is to use the facility along what is called the Fort Lyon model. And I went down with the Lieutenant Governor and some of the governor's staff to go down and look at Fort Lyon, which is way out in southeastern Colorado, out of nowhere. And it was an old VA hospital converted into helping people that were chronically homeless due to drug and alcohol issues. Let me tell you what's important about the isolation. Is you don't want it in a place where they can easily connect with people that are involved in drugs. And so, so people say, well, why are you having it way out there where it is? It's isolated. Well, it's isolated for a purpose. And so it will not be at the end of the day a 500-bed facility. So it's the way it is right now. It's two double bunk beds in a room. With an adult, we're probably going to make those individual rooms for an adult, they're very small rooms. And we're going to convert, with the state, convert some of the classrooms into residential. So at the end of the day, it could be anywhere from 150 to 200 bed facility. But so that's one of the things that is being worked on.
Where is that located, you said?
That is located on East Quincy. It's right by the state fairgrounds.
Oh.
Right by the fairgrounds out there. Right by what we call Capstick, our training area for police and fire. Yeah.
So I have a question about housing. As everyone knows, housing is going through the roof. Hopefully by raising interest rates, that will cool off a little bit, but it's shown to be holding up quite a bit. But Aurora is obviously becoming a lot more popular. More people are moving here, even younger people want to move here who don't have families, who want to live in smaller units, so like more studios. Like as far as I know, Aurora doesn't really have studios available, whether for rent or for purchase.
Sure.
So the future is probably going to be smaller units. What can we do? What can the city of Aurora do to increase the supply of smaller unit dwellings in
So
Aurora?
so we'll go to affordable housing and then put it if there's any questions on our list. So, we've had this red tape reduction task force, going on, and I think that's gonna take, looking at the permitting process to see if we can expedite that to bring down some of the administrative costs in terms of construction. What I'm looking at is forming a parallel entity like that, that will go before council fairly soon. I've been working with staff and working with builders and developers to say, let's look at everything across the board in terms of design requirements and in terms of zoning requirements, with a view towards density, to bring down the cost. So everything's on the table in this proposal, from tiny home villages to micro apartments, and relaxing the parking requirements so we can even get more density, maybe along transit-oriented corridors, to even looking at single, what's called single room occupancy, for that entry-level worker that doesn't even want a kitchen. This was their own room and bathroom, shower, microwave, refrigerator, to allow to look at that, to looking at manufactured housing on small lots, to everything, but the whole focus is, and let me tell you this, when I first moved to Aurora, well, my parents, when I was 9 years old, way back in '64, to tell you the whole way, 1964, we lived on Zion Street in Hoffman Heights, which was the edge of Aurora at that time. I think we lived in a house that's well under 1,000 square feet, under 1,000 square, I don't know. It was 3 bedrooms, 3 small bedrooms, 1 bath, just a kitchen area with a table in the kitchen area, with no dining room or anything. But it was fine. I mean, that's the way people lived back then. So, and we look at the way Europeans live, we look at people from other countries, the way they live. I mean, I think we can do a lot with design changes in allowing additional options to bring down the cost. One thing I am going to be doing, I'm going to be going into mountain communities, because they've done it, because their problems were workforce housing. They've allowed some fairly extraordinary things to occur. So I'm going to take a look at that. But I believe that we have some of the tools before us, what I call market-based tools, to really bring down the cost of housing, and that's what we're going to take a look at.
My question on affordable housing, there's something, and I may be saying it wrong, it's an income tax credit, it may be wrong, it's a tax that I think the government or the city offers, where if it's an apartment building, or 20% wrong. I've asked some of the buildings, or some apartment complexes, and they say, oh, we don't have that program. I understood that was something that was not, we don't have, that they have to have a selection of 20% of their apartments to get to allow people for affordable housing to move in.
There's an allocation, I think it's by CHAFA, Colorado Housing Finance Authority, that builders can apply to, developers can apply for, that requires rents to be maintained below a certain AMI, average median income. So that's.
How do we get that list? Because I know.
Well, they're still available.
Okay.
I mean, and that's one tool, housing authorities, the other tool, and so there are different tools.
I don't
available.
understand.
One thing that I'm looking at is that across the Colfax corridor, there are 25 of these little old motels. And, you know, I think that they really exploit some of the people that live there.
I beg your pardon, I'm not concerned about the motels, I'm concerned about how.
No, I'm concerned about
Okay,
motels.
but
so that's
I'm
what
concerned
talking
about, what I'm asking you is about the apartment complexes and what I.
I thought, okay, let me address it again,
Okay.
and then we're gonna talk about
Yes,
something else.
I appreciate that.
Okay, so there's an allocation available,
Mhm.
the builder has to wanna do it,
Okay,
for the tax credit, and
okay,
then they build the apartment, they get the receive the tax credit, there's an allocation, there's a ceiling for those.
sure.
And then I believe that the, Juan can help me out, Councilmember O'Connor can help me out, I think that the apartment building over on Parker and, Aurora, that's tax credits, right?
Where do I get a list of the apartments? That was my
The
question.
Aurora Housing Authority,
Okay.
which the mayor is alluding to, that's our city's quasi-governmental housing agency.
Okay,
They have a list of all of their properties.
Okay.
What the mayor's talking about with the CHAPA credits that will administer the CHAPA are the low-income housing tax credits, LIHTC, if you figure out what that means. And they're basically sold off in 2 tranches, 4% and 9%. 9% is rarer than 4%, is the limit. So I think probably what you're trying to get to is there's not nearly enough of that, because it's limited by the federal government as to what they get to the states.
okay, but still my question is, so I need to go to Aurora Housing Authority in order to get the list.
Yes.
And these people are gonna know that they'll have enough education to know about it, because what I've encountered is a lot of, I don't know, we don't, and I know for a fact that they do. And it's really bad when I can go downtown and I can ask about it, and they're aware of it. Or even I've encountered having people that live with me that are on vouchers where these people have actually said, we don't accept it. It's not a question of if you don't accept, you have to, you know? And so, you know,
So
Are you talking about the Section 8 program?
I don't know, I don't never use Section 8, I want.
Section 8 are the vouchers.
The Section 8 of vouchers, just a friend of mine that.
Okay, and property owners are not required.
It's voluntary, yeah, so it's part of the challenge section.
Okay, so only thing I wanna know is where do I get a list for the affordable, for the people that, have applied for it, that they are required to have 20% of their apartment complex in affordable state. That's all I wanna know about it. You said that Aurora Housing, and these people should know that.
Okay, so, and sorry if I can continue here. Mayor.
Sure.
So I think what you're referring to, especially if you're kind of mixing Denver into it, Denver has approved inclusionary zoning.
We do not have that.
Which we do not have. We could opt into it as well, but that's a council.
Okay, so Aurora doesn't have it.
No.
I would like to.
Okay, so let me, so there are 25 motels along, the old motels along the Colfax Corridor. And it was amazing, and you know, people sometimes that unfortunately don't have, maybe the first last month's rent to get an apartment, or maybe they've been incarcerated and nobody's gonna rent to them. But they, you know, they pay higher than average rents, I think, on a weekly basis. There's a heavy call volume in terms of the Aurora Police Department to these motels for drugs, for prostitution, for violent crime. And so, and you say, well, why wouldn't they want to redevelop into something else? And the reason is I think because a lot of the business that they do is in cash. And they don't pay taxes on it, they don't report it. And so if you open their books, the value is not as great as it is in the way they operate. And so, but I think some of them would qualify in terms of our nuisance ordinance eventually. And, but it would be nice to redevelop that area along Colfax into higher density apartment, affordable apartment buildings, workforce apartment buildings to be able to do that and to help redevelop the entire corridor.
Are you in support of inclusionary housing, like what Denver does? Do you
I think that'll be something we're going to look at and have a discussion on.
have you voted on that?
No, we have not voted
Okay.
on it. I would certainly want to see what we can do in terms of bringing down the costs through design changes and
Through market
changes.
principles?
I think there is more opportunity to reduce costs through that than inclusionary zoning.
When it comes to homeless, it seems to me there's a mixture of terms, maybe a spectrum. To me, the people who had the fire up in Superior are the homeless. And certainly there's situations, finances. But what we have in the city is a drug and alcohol addicted camper. And to me, that's not a lack of available homeless space, that's a lifestyle. And you really did a good job, I think, of addressing that in your article and what you did when you spent a week on the street, educating yourself and some of us about what the difference is.
Okay. Let me conclude with this, and because we're running out of time here. And I'll be available, I'm going to stick around, and sure, Councilmember McConnell will stick around, and APD answer any other questions that you have. So I think, obviously, Councilmember McConnell and I differ on the value of a camping ban. I think it's important, but it is not the end state that we're looking. The end state that we're looking for is we want these people off the street. Period. And into services. That's the end state, and we can certainly agree on that. I think what's important is we're going to be, I think there are, so we are going to be developing a permanent facility. Somewhere, I think, somewhere right now, tentatively around where the animal shelter is for the city. And in the vacant parcel adjacent to that. So that we're going to be taking we're going to be going to two cities I think that is very important. One is we're going to be going to Houston, which is I think more biased towards a housing first model. This essentially says, the big thing is just get them off the street and get them into housing and then deal with issues after that. And then the other is more probably a bias towards a work first model in San Antonio. And so we'll take a look at that. That says, get them off the street, but you have to have requirements when you get them off the street and give them a place to stay. And so my guess is that probably whatever we come to an agreement on will have three different phases to it. Maybe the first phase would be more emergency services, navigator, center, whatever you want to call it. Then the second will be in the same campus will be those people participating in mental health services, those people participating in job training and things like that. And maybe the third will be somewhere between transitional housing with a bias towards a workforce model to permanent supportive housing with a bias towards a housing first model. Probably not one shoe's going to fit all. Not one size is going to fit all. And so I think it may be some variation in there. And so I think going to Houston, going to San Antonio will get us a better feel of those established programs. I tell you what, I'm going to stay around. I'm sure Councilmember McConnell will be around, and some of our APD guys might be able to stay around, except for the game. And so thank you so much for coming here today and being a part of this. I really appreciate it. Thank you a lot.
They're aware of it, or even I've encountered people that live with me that are on vouchers where these people have actually said, we don't accept it. It's not a question of if you don't accept it, you have to, and so,
Are you talking about the Section 8 program?
I don't know, I don't never use Section 8,
Section 8 or the vouchers?
The Section 8 of vouchers, just a friend of mine that.
Okay, and property owners are not required.
It's voluntary, yeah, so it's part of the challenge section.
Okay, so only thing I want to know is where do I get a list for the affordable, for the people that have applied for it, that they are required to have 20% of their apartment complex in an affordable state. That's all I want to know about. You said that Aurora housing, and these people should know that.
Okay, so, and sorry if I can continue here.
Sure.
So I think what you're referring to, especially if you're kind of mixing Denver into it, Denver has approved inclusionary zoning.
We do not have that.
Which we do not have. We could opt into it as well, but that's a council.
Okay, so Aurora doesn't have it.
No, I would like to.
Okay, so let me, so there are 25 motels along, old motels along the Coffman border. And it was amazing, and you know, people sometimes that unfortunately don't have maybe the first and last month's rent to get an apartment, or maybe they've been incarcerated and nobody's gonna rent to them. But they, you know, they pay higher than average rents, I think, on a weekly basis. There's a heavy call volume in terms of the Aurora Police Department to these motels for drugs, for prostitution, for violent crime. And so, and you say, well, why wouldn't they want to redevelop into something else? And the reason is I think because a lot of the business that they do is in cash. And they don't pay taxes on it, they don't report it. And so if you open their books, the value is not as great as it is in the way they operate. And so, but I think some of them would qualify in terms of our nuisance ordinance eventually. And, but it would be nice to redevelop that area along Colfax into higher density apartment, affordable apartment buildings, workforce apartment buildings to be able to do that and to help redevelop the entire corridor.
Are you in support of inclusionary housing, like what Denver does? Do you
I think that'll be something we're going to look at and have a discussion on.
have you voted on that?
No, we have not voted
Okay.
on it. I would certainly want to see what we can do in terms of bringing down the cost through design changes and
Through market
changes.
principles?
I think there is more opportunity to reduce costs through that than inclusionary zoning.
When you talk about homeless, it seems to me there's a mixture of terms, maybe a spectrum. To me, the people who had the fire up in Superior are the homeless. And certainly there's situations, you know, finances. But what we have in the city is a drug and alcohol addicted camper. And to me, that's not a lack of available homeless space, that's a lifestyle. And you really did a good job, I think, of addressing that in your article and what you did when you spent a week on the street, educating yourself and some of us about what the difference is.
Okay. Let me conclude with this, and because we're running out of time here. And I'll be available. I'm going to stick around. I'm sure Councilmember McConnell will stick around, and APD answer any other questions that you have. So I think, you know, obviously, Councilmember McConnell and I differ on the value of a camping ban. I think it's important, but it is not the end state that we're looking. The end state that we're looking for is we want these people off the street. Period. And into services. That's the end state, and we can certainly agree on that. I think what's important is we're going to be, I think there are, so we are going to be developing a permanent facility. Somewhere, I think, somewhere right now, tentatively around where the animal shelter is for the city. And in the vacant parcel adjacent to that. So that we're going to be taking we're going to be going to two cities I think that is very important. One is we're going to be going to Houston, which is I think more biased towards a housing first model. This essentially says, you know, the big thing is just get them off the street and get them into housing and then deal with issues after that. And then the other is more probably a bias towards a work first model in San Antonio. And so we'll take a look at that. That says, you know, get them off the street, but you have to have requirements when you get them off the street and give them a place to stay. And so my guess is that probably whatever we come to an agreement on will have three different phases to it. Maybe the first phase would be more emergency services, navigator, center, whatever you want to call it. Then the second will be in the same campus will be those people participating in mental health services, those people participating in job training and things like that. And maybe the third will be somewhere between transitional housing with a bias towards a workforce model to permanent supportive housing with a bias towards a housing first model. Probably not one shoe's gonna fit all, not one size is gonna fit all. And so I think it may be some variation in there. And so I think going to Houston, going to San Antonio will get us a better feel of those established programs. I tell you what, again, I'm gonna stay around. I'm sure Councilmember McConnell will be around and some of our APD guys might be able to stay around, except for the game. And so thank you so much for coming here today and being a part of this. I really appreciate it. Thank you a lot.